Right, so this is Vlogging Friday Isle of Skye edition, complete with a bag to put over part of my laptop because for the first time all week it is raining a little tiny bit, probably enough my laptop isn't going to die, but we'll see. Also known as Let's Confuse the locals rather, who probably would not understand if they saw me wandering around talking into a laptop. So this is the Isle of Skye. I'm going to show you, this is where we have been staying, this little cottage. Hang on, there we go, complete with a lovely little stream. God, I can't work out the angles. Complete with a stream and waterfall just there to the right hand side of it. So yeah, that's the cottage in the background. We'll see if any of this is actually audible when I get out. There is a girl standing on the edge of the road with her bike. He's going to be very confused as I walk past talking in a minute, but there we go. That's some more of the stream. It's down there. That noise in the background, if you heard it, was a pheasant. Alright, so I'm going to show you, that's the cottage from far away, just there. And I'm going to walk down the road a bit. This is running, I know, my face bobbing around with some trees in the background. Okay, I'm going to perch on this wall because it looks fairly empty. Hopefully it is, and they won't come out and yell at me. Alright, so this is Broadford on the Isle of Skye is where we're staying at the moment. It's rather nice. Oh, I think it's got really cool to the bag off my laptop for now. So let's show you over there. Can't really tell. No, that's too far. Oh, okay, well I was going to show you the mountain, but you can't really see it because it's half covered in snow. That mountain is called Ben Kayak, which we all, by all I mostly mean my younger brother and my uncle Tim, amusingly refer to as the nipple because of its shape. And then I'm going to turn it around and show you out to sea. I can't see if you can pick it up, but there's a bird in the forefront about there, which I have learnt this week is called an oyster catcher. That's the sea that I swim in. That grassy bit out there is the island that Diane and I used to camp on. Here comes a car. The lady smacked at my video recording. So yeah, that's where I swim. Normally, well, occasionally on days nicer than today. I'm quite angry right now and sort of feel like a little bit of anger breaking, anger management. So maybe I'll go for a nice cold swim to get it out of my system. We'll see. I don't really fancy it looking out. I haven't swum in it yet. I instead have just swum in the icy cold fairy pools of Glen Brittle. Very cold. Very, very cold. I've got you can't really tell here, but I have got a vague tan from being in Scotland this past week. Not that the weather right now would, you know, demonstrate that, but it's been very, very sunny, which makes me laugh because by all accounts, by which I mean Jamie Parker's mostly, it's been very, 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 very cold and rainy in London, which I find funny because it's not been cold and rainy up here until today. What else? That was another pheasant in the background, if you heard it going crack, crack. That's the pheasant noise. Oh, that's the girl over there clambering down. Can you see her? I can't tell. Clambering along the rocks. She's the one that probably thinks I'm a crazy person for talking into a laptop. I don't know how much of this you'll be able to see when I turn it around and point, because I can't really tell. But I'm assuming maybe a little bit, we'll see. Yeah, so yesterday, so there's a thing that I've been wanting to do for about 2 weeks ever since I heard about it from a book that we have at work called Wild Swimming, which talks about wild places outside in the wild, funnily enough, to go swimming in, which is how I learned about fairy pools. But I have a place called the Spa Cave, which is mentioned in a Sir Walter Scott poem as a mermaid's lake in the bottom of it. And I looked it up, and it's on the Isle of Skye, funnily enough. And and the Victorians used to go to it all the time as like a popular tourist destination. And it had all these stalactites coming down from the ceiling, and they used to snap them off for souvenirs. So when I went there yesterday, they were all gone. And there used to be this wall up in front of it that some, I suppose, genius local decided to build so we could charge people entrance. But then a passing ship, I suppose, took offence to this wall and shot at it as target practice, and the wall was no more. But when it used to exist, Sir Walter Scott, when he went to explore, he climbed up over the wall with some rope to get in and have a look at this cave. So yesterday, I told Dad about it, and he wasn't so sure because he'd never heard about it before, and he's been coming here since he was younger than me, so a good many years now. And he was like, I've never heard of it. And I was like, well, to make it even more fun, you can only get to it at low tide, and if you stay there too long, you get stranded there for 12 hours. And he was like, oh, I don't think so. And I was like, well, let's go have a look anyway. So we went yesterday, we had a look, and we managed to clamber around some rocks to get to it. It was a lot of rock clambering and climbing, and Dad stayed behind at first because, you know, he's getting on. Well, he's not really, but, you know, he didn't want to come around to start with. So me and Matthew went, and we saw the entrance to the cave, and I thought Matthew was going to come in with me. He was like, I'm going to go let Dad know what's going on. And I had this puny little torch, which I took to mean he didn't want to come into the cave. But there was this guy standing outside of it, someone else who was clearly exploring it, and I had my usual McMurdo rock just in case. And I was like, do you think I've got time to go in for the tide? And he was like, oh, my friend's up there taking pictures right now, so you should be alright. So I get in, and this torch that Matthew had given me was the most pathetic thing in the world, and I could barely see anything. But then I could see this really bright torch forwards a bit, but up really high, because you get in and you walk like 2 meters inside, and then there's this like formation of, I think it was called loamstone, where the calcium deposits are just formed in this sort of pretty steep, I'm going to say like relative that steepness, but it was a bit bumpy, and you sort of have to just clamber up, and there's water dripping down it. So I was clutching this pathetic torch in one hand and sort of pulling myself up this stone, and it was surprisingly not slippery considering all the water going down. And I got up to the top, and this guy with this very bright torch, and he was sort of showing me the way to get there. And I saw this pool, and originally I was going to swim in this pool, but I was by myself and I hadn't brought my swimming costume, so I didn't. But it was really cool. He was like, come here, I want to show you something. And I was like, just promise you're not going to murder me and push me in. And he was like, no, I just want to show you. And he was a frequent caver, as it were, so he was giving me lots of information about the formations of it all, which was very exciting. And then I went down, and again he lit the way because he was going down as well. And Dad and Matthew had made it to the entrance of the inlet with the cave in. The inlet with the cave is the only one that you can't get out of high tide, and to be honest, I think if we did get trapped there, maybe not Matt and Dad, because they're not great swimmers, so I'd probably have to leave them behind. But, you know, it'd be quite easy to swim to the wall of the inlet and then clamber back around again. Yeah, they'd made it. They were like, well, let's go in and have a look then. And I was like, really? I've just got out, and the man with the good torch is gone now. And he saw us going in. He was like, how long are you going to be? And I was like, oh, not long. They just went out and had a look. And he was like, do you want to take my helmet torch thing? And I was like, yeah, okay, for sure. So I put on this ridiculous helmet and lit the way. And Dad got halfway up the incline before he decided to give up. And Matthew made it up to the top. And Matthew had been particularly scathing about the plan before we went in, but he was like, no, fair play, that was very good fun, good spot, good find, etc, etc, and being very complimentary and talking about how easy it was to get up after he'd managed to do it. So yeah, that was fun. And then we got back, we drove to Elgol, and we went a quick walk along so we could find this other cave called the Bonnie Prince Charlie's Cave, which was history lesson. Charles I obviously beheaded by Cromwell, and then there was a bit of a civil war going on. His son escaped and went up to Scotland, and then the Sky Boat song, Over the Sea to Sky, which I have tattooed on me for my granny, is a song about him being sailed by Flora MacDonald, who rowed him from the mainland to Skye, and he hid here for a couple of weeks and had a tour of the islands. And the last 2 days he hid in this cave, and that's where his farewell feast was. It's another one that you can only get to at low tide, but we didn't have time to go find it properly because then we had a boat trip, Missy R's boat trip over to Loch Carruth, which is stunning scenery, and I've only done it once before. The others have done it a few more times, but I haven't been up as much as them because they normally go in the summer, and I was in America doing touring things. And I'm just wiping the screen, bear with me. Yay, a little bit of water on my new laptop, it's all good. I'm just going to pop a bag over it again. Yeah, so that was cool. It was beautiful. We saw lots of seals. The day before yesterday we went to the Isle of Rasay, which is another mini island that you get a ferry from Sconser on Skye to, and there's something like, I don't know, 40 people living there, something ridiculous like that. We did this walk along these old abandoned railway tracks that used to go to this iron ore mine, but I don't mind doing the walking, I just don't like the pace because I really like walking fast. And so I just briskly walked ahead, and then I was wearing my running shoes because they're the closest thing to walking boots I have, and I was like, well, as long as I'm wearing my running shoes, maybe I'll just jog. So I jogged most of the way of this up and down mountainous rocky routes, which was fun. Turns out it was about a 5-mile thing altogether, and I think I jogged about half of that up and down mountains, so that was entertaining. And then we went to see this castle ruins. We got there and you said danger, keep away from ruins, falling masonry, so I only climbed a little bit of the way up to have a peek inside. Then we saw this colony of seals, like just around the one cove, across all these rocks that you had to scramble around, and I was like, let's go a bit closer. So Dad stayed behind again, and me and Matt just scrambled over these rocks for about 20 minutes and got a couple of meters away from this colony of seals that just looked at us in utter confusion. And then as we started going, 4 or 5 of them jumped off the rocks and started following us back around to where Dad was, which we thought was very funny. We told him that, you know, we didn't think it was fair that he didn't manage to scramble over, so we sent some seals around to see him, so that was cool. And then today we went to Tascovade Beach, which is where my granny's ashes are scattered, and for a walk along Ord, I think is what it's called. And then we went to Armadale, and my dad and my brother went off for a 3.5-hour walk. I didn't know that was how long it was going to take. I was going to sit in the car with some signal thinking it was going to be half an hour, and then my phone died within half an hour, and then they took the next 2.5 hours, and I had no money, no books, no nothing, so that was fun. Then my brother and dad got back in the car, and we drove back down to the pier, and this is where the anger comes in. My brother and my dad, we drove past a bus stop with 2 Asian tourists, and my dad was saying stuff at the front, and I said, you're being racist, aren't you, up there? And in a mostly tongue-in-cheek fashion, although they probably, in fact, no, they were saying stuff, not in an actual way, just in a plonkerish way, but no, fuck them, whatever. And my brother said, no, I've set with someone who's half Chinese, so, I can't be. And I was like, no, that's bullshit. That's like saying, I can't be racist because I have one black friend who doesn't mind me using the N-word, or I can't be homophobic, I can use the word gay because my one lesbian friend doesn't mind it. Matthew's like, no, you know what, I can use that. And he didn't say the N-word, he actually said the full word. I can say insert word here because black people use the word honky, and if you don't know what honky is, it's a racist term black people use to describe white people. And I was like, that is not the same thing. It was like, yeah, it's called inverse racism. Firstly, the most commonly used term is reverse racism, and secondly, that's bullshit. It's just a thing that racist people say to make themselves feel better about their own racism. And he started going on about I was ignorant, and then just told me to stop talking, and I had been doing really well at not arguing with him all holiday and just ignoring every single offensive thing that he says, and it just makes me so angry because I was doing so well, and he just can't. He's just a big pile of boast. Everything that he says is a boast. Oh, this guy's an amazing singer, not as good as me, obviously. Oh, all girls want. I've got so many girls back home that want to sleep with me, and I'm just an amazing cook, and I'm the only one that does any work in my job, and if I wasn't there, then it's fallen apart without me, and oh, up until my shoulder surgery, I was amazing at this, and oh, my dad's waving a mug of tea in my direction. I think it's coming down the road with some tea, and I was just doing really well at just ignoring everything he said and just going, to all of his boasts about how attractive he is to girls and all of his continuous talk about shagging, but I was not okay with him using that word in front of me and then trying to justify it with the usual, it's not racism because black people are racist to white people. Around the time where honky is synonymous with slavery and lynching and not being able to marry someone of the opposite race and death and everything that the N-word is synonymous with, that's when you can say that that's an applicable thing. So yeah, Dad's here now. That's the end of my video log about Scotland and also my rant about my brothers. Yes, Dad would like to be in my vlog. Dad's just bought me some tea somewhere there.
My fireworks hoodie.
That's my dad wearing a fireworks hoodie, looking like an ageing roadie for the Rolling Stones with his jeans and everything.
I'm off to hump some gear.
Dad's off to hump some gear, which I think means tidy up the cottage and pack, because we are on our way home tonight after a quiz at the pub with the locals of whom quite like us, and I put a quiz on in our honour. Anyway, that was all. Rant over, video log over. Starting to rain a bit heavier, so I'm gonna go. Mwah.